Hello, hello, hello. Let's put like a nice little backdrop, shall we? Let's give ourselves a little bit of light. Hello, untitled folder. Let's open you up. And let's take that off. There we go. Now we got some light in the face. Let's see if we can bring this all the way over. Okay. And pop this in front. There we go. Now we're just like a little blown out though. Okay. Because if I sit back, I want to be able to sit back. This is how I want to record my podcast. I legitimately didn't even realize that I was already recording. I hope you cannot hear how fucking squeaky this chair is. But it's a vibe. Like, look at it. Like, look at her. Okay, I want to get comfy, but I also need to sit upright. Anyway, there we go. I did it. This is episode 1 of On the Fly podcast. I've been building out this podcast in the back of my mind for probably two plus years now. And I've done all the back end stuff that I needed to do. It was really just about actually sitting down and hitting record. And I'm actually really excited. Ooh, you know what? I just clocked myself hella masking. If you're neurodivergent, you'll understand. I literally just put on a persona when I hit record. And I would like to unmask that. So that's actually very fitting for what this podcast is about. Because there's going to be so much content that's exactly like what you just saw, which is me observing myself in real time and catching when I start to run on a program and I become a character. And one of the programs that I run so often is being a Virgo. And with that, quite a lot of perfectionism that I've needed to work through in my life. And so that is the reason behind the name of this podcast, On the Fly. I'm going to go right into the meaning of the podcast before even introducing myself, because that feels more important. I have been actively engaging in healing and shadow work for, I don't even know how many years it's been now. It feels like my whole life, but I really very intentionally started cultivating a relationship with my own healing, I would say, at the end of 2018. And in that time, I've grown to really take my shadow work on the road, if you will. Meaning it doesn't matter whether I'm at the dentist's office or in line at the grocery store. I'm willing to meet myself in my shadow work wherever I am. And I've gotten to a point where I can do it in real time while I'm out and about in the world. And that was originally the name behind, or the intention behind the name of this podcast. And because I've been working on it behind the scenes for 2+ years, it's no longer as pertinent to me in that way, because my relationship with my shadow work has become so simultaneous almost, that I don't even feel like I need to refer to it as on the fly anymore. So on the fly for me now is pretty much how I live my life as a whole. So for the past 2 years, I have been living a very digital nomad-esque lifestyle. And so when I make decisions of where I'm traveling to next, or what the next portion of my journey needs to be focusing on, or how I can best serve my purpose, how can I best fulfill my heart and my mission. I do all of that decision making on the fly through my intuition, through flow. And so I wait for the invitation or for the information to come through spirit, and then I head to my next destination or make my next decision. And so it's metaphorical and also quite literal because I have been traveling a lot. And so now I just live my life pretty much on the fly, always. How I interact with others, how my conversations go down, everything is on the fly, in the sense that I'm always tuning into my feminine, into my inner oracle, into my intuition. And I'm moving into a chapter of grounding all of the codes and all of the wisdom that has been alchemized within my system and is now in my embodiment and in my voice. And I just clocked myself masking again. It's so cool. Okay, I'm going to chill out for a little bit because I got into my Virgo again. So the reason why it took me so long to really work on this podcast was because I got in my own head. I got in my own way. And I almost don't even like saying that, because to say I got in my own way implies that I did something wrong, that something should have happened differently or should have happened sooner. And so I want to clock that in real time. And that's what I'll also be doing a lot on this podcast, is catching things in real time. And you'll see for me, that's a form of instantaneous shadow work. I clocked a narrative that I just spoke out into existence, which is no longer actually in resonance with my vibration, my field, and my belief system. And so I need to shift the spell I just cast with my wording. So I've been in the illusion that I've been dragging my feet the last 2 years, waiting for the perfect time to have the perfect environment to record and film these episodes, wanting to have the perfect lighting, wanting to have the perfect setup. I used to do a lot of videography work, and I'm an art school kid. And so having a background in photography and videography, especially lighting, I was like, if I'm going to create something, it needs to be absolutely fucking beautiful. I need to have the perfect lighting. I want to make up the perfect set. I want that lighting to kiss my face like it's never kissed anybody's face. I want to use the best fucking lens. I want to have the best editing software so I can make this all so perfect and pristine. And it was exactly that narrative that held me back from actually hitting fucking record. And so right now it's a Friday night in October, and I am high as a kite, which is, a spoiler alert, another weird thing for me, because I used to have such a strong relationship with cannabis or Santa Maria. And then I took a lot of space from it, and I didn't feel a pull to her consciousness for a really long time. And now, I don't know if it's because I'm in Toronto, but I'm feeling a call to her. Just going to take a sip of water. And yes, that is a clear quartz at the bottom of this coffee maker thing. I'm house sitting for a friend, like I said, right now. And this is the closest thing to a huge jar or jug of water that I can find, so that I can keep hella hydrating myself. So all of this to say, I'm in a really interesting chapter in my life right now. I'm in Toronto, which is the home city that I'm from. And what I mean by I is hi. My vessel goes by the name Phoenix. My full name is Vanessa Raven Phoenix. I'm in my Phoenix era, specifically spelled Phoenix, if you catch my drift. Death and rebirth, daughter of the night, goddess of the darkness kind of vibes, you know. I think my tattoo kind of helps a little bit, you know. But I'm originally from Toronto. I am an artist. Like I mentioned, my vessel identifies as a shadow worker, an alchemist, a healer, a trailblazer, and an all-around delight. and goofball. And it's funny, like as I'm saying these words out loud, I just find it so fascinating, and I would love to know for any other starseeds who are listening or watching right now, if you have these moments where you like zoom out and catch yourself using these labels and how much they just like don't fucking matter at all. I'm also drinking from this beautiful mug. Made myself a little salted caramel hot chocolate. It's delicious. Shout out to Soma Chocolate Maker on King West in Toronto. Yeah, I have these moments as a soul living inside of a body, as a neurospicy human, as an alien, where I catch myself using these really simple words to describe my beingness. I'm zoning out hella hard pretty often here because I'm communing with Santa Maria right now. But I think that's the beauty of this episode, and I'm excited for it to be as authentic and raw as it is right now in my beingness, in my appearance, in my backdrop, in my lighting, all of it. This feels like it feels like old school YouTube for me, which has a really delicious quality of nostalgia to it. And also the perfectionist in me is like, really, this is going to be our first episode? You don't even have any makeup on. And then the story that follows there, or the inner dialogue that occurs, is like, makeup hasn't mattered to you for a really long time. Yeah, so these labels that we use, and I'm not sure if it's also a manifesting generator thing. I'm a manifesting generator, 4/6, sacral authority. I think my label is the royal sage, the wise sage, the regal authority. That's what it is. Right. The regal authority. And so while I'm on the subject of regal, I feel it's important to mention, this is the part about being a manifesting generator. I feel like I have 1,000,001 different parts shoved inside of this body. I also burp when I move energy, and I consistently alchemize and do real-time shadow work when I commune with Santa Maria, regardless of what my intention is. So you're going to get a lot of belches on this podcast. By the way, I'm going to have different kinds of episodes. So some of them are going to be just me chilling, like doing shadow work in real time, smoking a joint in real time, channeling perhaps, or just speaking on a specific topic, solo dolo. And then I also want to have 2 other types of episodes. One will be interview style, and I'll have some really dope ass humans be guests and just get to see into their world and have them share their magic and their wisdom and the codes that they've collected along their journeys. And the third style will be very freestyle-esque, in the sense of it will be a conversation with another human being, with another guest on the podcast. And we'll go into the episode with a specific sort of intention of the direction we'd like to go. And then we're just going to let the conversation unfold. You guessed it, on the fly. Oh, man. Okay. So I want to circle back a little bit to the different sort of labels we place on ourselves, and how multifaceted I feel being shoved into a human body. I think what would actually be really helpful for me as far as continuing to unmask is if I couldn't see myself. I think having the ability to see myself in the camera right now is making it difficult for me to show up as authentically as I want to. And then there's a part of me, though, that is concerned about how it will be for the viewer, for you as the audience member, if I don't have the camera in front of me. Because when I'm channeling in real time, I tend to look off to the side a lot. I think this is a really cool area where being neurodivergent and being a psychic or a channel of any kind overlap in a really interesting way, because eye contact is really difficult for me when I am channeling. So I will look off camera, off screen a lot. And it's when I'm looking at the camera or capturing, like looking at the screen, capturing my reflection, that I start to really like shift my face and begin to mask and put on a persona. And I can't really do that when I'm with other people. I can't see myself. I see myself. I see myself in other ways, but not quite the same as just staring at my own reflection. So I think I'm going to move myself off camera a little bit and see if that makes it impossible for me to focus now, or if it's helpful and it actually creates a sense of freedom, that I'm just like mossing and chilling out, and it kind of breaks the fourth wall in a way. So it's so interesting to me, and I'm not sure if it's the added element of having cannabis in my system, but I've thought about recording this episode so many times, and I felt like I had so much to say, and I would almost like stop midway through my day in the middle of what I was doing and just like start to speak out loud what I was thinking about for this episode. And I knew that given the nature and the intention behind this podcast, I didn't want to plan this first episode too much. I didn't want to sit down and make notes of what I wanted to say. I did really want to have like at least some sort of structure. Like I wanted to at least write out, okay, like this is going to be your intro, and then you're going to leave a lot of room for flow, and then this is how you're going to outro, close it out. And I didn't do that. And I think that there's a part of my human right now that feels a little bit guilty for not doing that. And I can notice myself again, that perfectionism coming in and being concerned about the quality of the podcast. But what I know to be true, and it's a huge part of the reason why Spirit wants me to create this podcast, is that this is the contents of my podcast are the juiciest part, is the part that has the most medicine. And if anything, it's less about my physical appearance and more about the frequency of my voice that's going to transmit this message, regardless of what my human mouth is actually executing in the English language. It's my voice that's encoded. And so that helps my inner critic and my inner artist who, you know, just wants to so deeply create in the physical realm as close as possible to the vision that lives in my head, in my heart. And I think that's the paradox of being an artist, is that if you wait for it to be perfect, then you'll never create it. And there's so much creaking going on right now, and I'm like, Spirit is present. I also really sort of, maybe I should put like a sound frequency on in the background, because I think that would help my frequency sort of attune. Okay. I was going to play something from Multidimensional. That's how you know I'm high. Malte Martin. But I don't want to get into like any copyright stuff. So let's do like a nice little sound frequency. We're going to do 528 hertz. This one is specifically for inner peace and deep healing, warm energy. Oh yeah, that already feels so good. I should change these every week so that, you know, some of them can be like super galactic and then some of them can be like a super sort of like hip hop vibe. So I know that a huge part of my purpose in this lifetime, not purpose, my mission. And I want to pause there for a second and talk about my interpretation of the distinction between the two, because it feels really important. And I know it was really important for me for a really long time to have that distinction, or to begin to notice that distinction. So for me, my purpose is to be, it's to exist as authentically as I can, just be myself and catch myself whenever I'm not doing that, and love myself back into being authentically me, and unapologetically me. That's a really important word to me, especially as a woman. Consistently gifting myself permission to be unapologetic in how I express is probably the biggest act of self-love that I could ever take part in. That makes me emotional. I almost want to cry. I do want to also mention that I'm filming this during eclipse week, so energies are high. It's been a fantastic week, but the energies are high and I can definitely still feel them. And I am very tired. I don't know if I've communicated that. My vessel is very tired. So the distinction for me between purpose and being, or purpose and mission, is my purpose is to be, and my mission is sort of the journey to building the empire or the impact that I'm meant to carry out through my soul contract in this lifetime. And I get to follow the yellow brick road of my mission through my purpose, which is being me. And that's been like a really big theme for me through this eclipse season. Like, it has been coming up so much for me during this eclipse corridor, if you will, to really come back to myself and who I am. I originally moved away from Toronto in 2021 in the middle of COVID, and I completely explored an entirely new version of myself, being away from everything I've ever known and being in a new city, in a new province, and basically having to build my life from the ground up again. And so grateful, so blessed to have done that surrounded by friends. So the transition was so much easier. I had a lot of soul family around me at the time. And then going from that into traveling full time for the last 2 years, it expanded my concept of self so much. And it also created a lot of opportunity for me to come away from myself. And what I mean by that is, and this was totally necessary, I know this in hindsight now, there was definitely a period of time where my ego made up a really strong story about this, but and being so far away from my family and the friends that I had in this city and all the memories that I held from being in this city gave me so much space to, in a lot of ways, come home to my soul and my galactic self, because Toronto was such a deep anchor and representation of my physical self. And so during that time away and during that time traveling, I would sort of affiliate myself to Toronto in a negative way. And I looked at it as like an old version of myself that I no longer wanted to be. And I didn't realize, but in a way, what I was doing was invalidating and monstrosizing who I was in the past and everything that came with that version of myself. And so a lot of that was my artist self, my creative self, the dancer in me, the singer in me, the painter in me, the photographer in me, the foodie in me in a lot of ways. When I first experienced my most potent spiritual awakening, let's put it that way. We'll talk about my first one in another episode. So comment that if you want to know that story of my first awakening experience. I'll say this: I was 2 years old when it happened, from my current recollection, to put it that way. When I experienced my most potent awakening in 2018, I was really trying to make it as a full-time artist. And in order for me to begin my healing journey, I actually literally needed to put down my identity as an artist, just to make space for all the remembering of all the other parts of who I was. And my whole life, it felt like I had been this label as a creative person, as an artist. And I didn't take that as an insult at all. I was very proud, for the most part, to be an artistic, creative person. However, I was definitely in the mindset of starving artists. Artists don't make a lot of money. That's not why they do their craft. And I didn't realize, but I lived inside of that. And so, in 2016, actually, I got let go from my job in real estate. I had been working in the real estate industry for 13 years. And in 2016, I got let go from my job. And that was the beginning of everything. It was the beginning of everything. I went full throttle into myself and trying to make it as an artist. I used all of my savings. I lived off of my savings for about a year, I think I would say, maybe more. And I just went all in on myself, but I was still operating from a lot of limiting beliefs and just overall programming and pain and a mindset that was not going to set me up for the success that I deserved as an artist. And I don't mean that in a monetary way or even a recognition way. Success for me now in that aspect is being an artist who is proud of her work, who enjoys her work, who allows her creations to birth themselves. My creative process before my spiritual awakening was very painful in a lot of ways because I was so hard on myself, and I needed my paintings. I was primarily an acrylic painter, but I also worked with a lot of mixed media. And I loved doing installations because my work, most of my paintings were glow in the dark paintings. And so I would create an installation that people, or like an installation style piece that was more of like an immersive experience for people. and they could get to see and experience my paintings in both regular lighting and glow in the dark. It was very cool, but I struggled a lot to get my paintings to emulate what I was seeing in my mind's eye. And my healing journey is what allowed me to really recognize that artistry is a form of channeling, and it's a form of shadow work, and it's a form of alchemy. And I needed to heal very important aspects of myself to be able to come into oneness with that channel, but to also not question how or what way that channel comes through into the physical realm. And that made painting a much more cathartic and therapeutic experience for me. And it allowed me to create based on the need to create, like the genuine pull or invitation to create, and not out of obligation or motivated by ego, to prove something or to make something that looked really pretty or really captivating. So, my concept of the version of me, the version of Vanessa, my name change came while I was traveling. But my concept of Vanessa was not one of reverence. And my concept of anyone in my family or anyone close to me that I was relating with from my days in Toronto, I witnessed them with a certain shade. And I mean that literally. And I had the beautiful opportunity to travel to Costa Rica this year. I was there for 3 months. I got there on New Year's Eve of 2023. And you know what? Like, just saying this out loud, I'm like, my life is so cool. It's just giving me a moment to really zoom out and witness myself, because I've been in a really long death portal, and it's been very dark and very painful. And now I feel like I've come out of it with this last eclipse, and it's now giving me an opportunity to actually see myself clearly, because I couldn't do that while I was in the death cycle, or the death portal rather. And my intention for my herbal joint this evening was celebrating myself for how far I've come. So it's really cool to just have a moment to think that on New Year's Eve, on January 1st of this year, I was in Costa Rica. And I was there till about April. And then I came back to Toronto with the intention of solely visiting my family for a little bit before heading out west back to BC. And Spirit had other motherfucking plans. Let me tell you, I did not anticipate that I would still be here in October. But that is also sort of the beauty and the curse of Toronto. It is very much a vortex, and everyone I know that is living a similar lifestyle to me or is walking a similar path says the same things. They come to Toronto, especially those of my friends that buy a one-way ticket like me. They come to Toronto and they just get sucked into this vortex, and then they're just here so much longer than they anticipate being here. So naturally, being back in Toronto and being in close proximity to the friends that I have here, to my family members, it's an opportunity for me to confront what I've been running from. And I had no idea. I mean, I shouldn't say I had no idea. I had an awareness, a speculation that I was subconsciously doing this in relationship to my the version of myself that lives in Toronto. And I want to take a moment to just talk a little bit about how I relate to time and space, because I think that's very relevant to how I'm talking about this version of myself that lives in Toronto, or lived in Toronto rather. When I travel, it is a very profound experience for me. It's not just a casual, after my spiritual awakening and after I started doing past life regression work and working in the quantum, like navigating the multiverse and the different parallel timelines and dimensions, getting on a plane now it's just not a casual experience where I just get on a plane and then I get off and I'm in a new city. It is a cellular recalibration for me every time I travel. It's very much going into a portal and the process of alchemy while you're in that portal until you get spit out the other side. Everywhere I travel to, the land has a different vibration that I can feel intimately, and it shifts how I behave, what I look like, and how I show up every time I'm in a new destination. And the vibration of Toronto specifically, especially in comparison to Vancouver, is very dense. It's and I don't mean this in a negative way. In the past I did. In this moment I don't. Toronto moves at a very slow pace vibrationally because of the density of population, because of how much concrete, it's like most cities, energy is going to be a lot more dense compared to being in the outskirts in nature. And it's interesting, the interplay between the speed of time and the speed of people, because time moves very fast in Toronto most of the time. And the people in their day-to-day move very fast, but their frequency is very slow. It vibrates lower and slower. And again, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not a negative thing. It's literally just it's a fact. Like it just is what it is. I say that with neutrality. And in Vancouver and many other places in the world that I've traveled to, the frequency is quite high. Toronto is like the shadow realm of Canada. And there's a couple other places that are definitely anchoring shadow energy, but Toronto is one of them. So I spent 30 years of my life living in a shadow realm and getting to a point where I was very comfortable with it and very proud of how intimate of a relationship I had with the shadow world. But it wasn't until going to Vancouver that I was like just floored with the contrast of the frequency. And I firmly believe that my soul has never traveled to Vancouver before. Like, I've had many, many, many incarnations on this planet, and I firmly believe that in all of them, I had never been to British Columbia. I had never been a human manifested into form and spent time in Vancouver or spent time in the BC. When I first got there, I was so beautifully in love with the landscape, but also I had this strange sensation moving through me because I was like, this is so beautiful and I'm so in awe and I'm so happy to be here. And I also feel really fucking eerie right now because this place feels so foreign to me. It feels so new. I have never been here. Where the fuck are we? And I haven't felt that way about pretty much every other place I've ever traveled to. A lot of places I traveled to as a kid that I travel back to now as an adult, my body is familiar with that frequency because it's been to that destination before, or the only other places that I travel to, because now they're so led by spirit, they take me to familiar lands where I've been before and where I need to return to remember the codes that are locked in that land there in that frequency. So Vancouver and British Columbia as a whole vibrates very fast. I mean, it is basically a parallel representation of Lemuria, being that it's on the Pacific coast, and obviously Atlantis being off the Atlantic coast. However, there are timelines where Atlantis and Lemuria overlap, but the energetic recalibration that I needed to go through in the first, like, honestly, six to 8 months maybe of being in Vancouver were brutal. And I'm so grateful that I had a friend who I moved with, and we moved across the country together, and then we lived together for the first 5 months. And so we got to go through a lot of that alchemy together. And I'm so grateful, because I think if I didn't have him there, I think my ass would have come back to Toronto within like 2 weeks. Like, I think Vancouver would have chewed me up and spit me out and been like, come back when you're ready. Because that land will test you to see if you are ready and willing to alchemize to her frequency in order to sustain being there. So anyway, there is an element of judgment and shame that I was bringing to my experience as Vanessa in this Toronto frequency. And being here from April until now has given me a very intimate opportunity to confront those stories and those illusions and lovingly sit with them. And I was doing all of this while staying with my parents in my childhood home. And let me tell you, I went through so much shame. My original intention when I came to Toronto in April was to rent out my own apartment whilst I visited my family and celebrated my brother's birthday and just caught up with people here that I wanted to see and connect with. And Spirit made that very, very difficult. I found a couple places that I liked, but there was things that were, in my opinion, sort of deal breakers for my own mental and energetic well-being. And so I chose not to go with those places. And then quite a few of them fell through. One of them was a scam. And it was made very clear to me by Spirit that they were like, you're in Toronto and you have some shit to deal with, and you need to not run away or try to do it in the most comfortable way possible. You need to go right into the belly of the beast. You're a cycle breaker. You're a shadow worker. Stop wussing out. You are staying with your family. And so I have been with my family, with my parents, just me and my parents. Basically, me, myself, and I. It's not wild. Isn't it wild when you like really dig into the meat and potatoes of this healing journey, and you really get to just see that your parents are you and you are your parents? It's just wild. It's so wild. Anyway, so I really and truly hope that all of these rambles that feel like the delicious synchronous flow on my end are comprehensible on your end. And if they're not, you're welcome anyway, because I think my voice is pretty calming. Although if I wasn't high right now, I probably would be even more intentional and calming about how I'm delivering my frequency. Now, I don't we don't need to refine. We just find the way we are. So yeah, I have been deep in the work. And the funny thing is, it's like, and I know y'all totally get this. I know you'll understand. I have been very intimately traveling through the underworld for years. I've been have a very intimate relationship with the shadow realm and the shadows and Lilith and Lucifer. And before anyone goes like nuts so in the comment section, when I say Lilith, I mean the truest version of the Dark Mother, the Dark Feminine, not the distorted mother of demons that the church has decided to, not even the church, it goes way further back than that, but the way our collective consciousness has decided to distort our perception of Lilith. And when I say Lucifer, I don't mean the caricature you've made of him as the devil or Satan. I mean the dark masculine in his truest essence, before there was an agenda involved. And if you don't know what I mean by that, this is your invitation to do some research. Do not go open up a new window and type into Google, because let me tell you, that shit's curated and you're not going to find the real facts on the internet unless it's the dark web, okay? Or some super weird subreddit. If you want to know more, let me know. I'll do a whole fucking other episode on Lilith and Lucifer. But for now, we'll move forward. And my suggestion to you is, if you do want to know more until I do another episode, meditate on it, because the truth is within you. Wow, that was really cheesy, but it also sounded like a really good tagline for a brand. We should get put that in my back pocket, because the truth is within you. It's so cliche, but it sounds cool. And sometimes I may be an artistic, poetic beach, but the cliches are where it's at, you know? Anyway. I don't know where I was in my story. I think I was talking about doing some deep shadow work while I was here. Right. I'm a shadow worker by nature. I'm very comfortable. Right, that's where we were. And I shit you not, I was like, I know healing is a never-ending journey. As long as I am on earth in this human skin suit, there is going to be healing that can occur. And will occur if I choose to do so. But when I tell you I did not see this coming, I did not see this coming. I was in the depths of darkness for the majority of 2023. Well, I know what? No, I don't want to say that. I would say, let's be real here. Let's be real. No, yeah, that's true. I lived a lot of joy, a lot of bliss, a lot of happiness, a lot of fun and playfulness in 2023. And I spent a lot of it healing my heart. I went through a friendship breakup that I never saw coming. Like truly never saw coming. It was the beginning of everything for me. And because 2023 was so heavy, I was like, I have traversed to the bottoms of my metaphorical basement. I am good. Yeah, there's going to be other stuff that I need to heal and deal with and alchemize, but it's not going to be nearly as difficult as this. We've hit the bottom here. And then 2024 came around and was just like, I'm going to swing you right upside your face. So it was really blindsiding. I spent 3 months in Costa Rica doing shadow work and encountering a lot of healing as well, but it was just in such a beautiful way. Granted, I know I was in Costa Rica. Bless. I'm so grateful that that's the life that I have, but I'm also so proud of my fucking self that I've cultivated a life where I can say that. And that my mission and my work in this life is what brought me to Costa Rica. And that's a whole other story. If you want to hear why I went to Costa Rica, how I went to Costa Rica, and how it's all connected to Atlantis, comment that down below. I have so many stories. It's not even funny. You have no idea how many episodes I could just record for 16 hours straight, and I would still have an endless plethora of metaphysical library to share with you. Costa Rica was a fucking blast. It was a motherfucking dream. I had been wanting to go there for so long. I was supposed to go to a retreat in November of 2020, and that did not occur. And so my soul was just yearning. So to actually be there was such a fucking blessing. And it was such a beautiful, magical, mystical, prosperous, abundant experience. And then I came home to Toronto, and it was like spirit just pumped the brakes on everything. I felt completely disconnected from my business. At the time, I was working primarily with women, doing one-on-one shadow work sessions over the span of a 4 to 6 month container. Oh my God, I've had stuff on my lip this whole time. Gravy boat. Yeah, I had in the past been doing cacao and mushroom ceremonies. I was leading online workshops. I was putting together potlucks to allow the community to connect in an intentional way. There was so many things that I was doing in the past, and then I got back to Toronto, and it was just like full stop. I hit a creative drought. I hit an emotional well or depth that I had never reached. I was just so disconnected to everything. Nothing felt right anymore. Nothing was really working anymore either. That was the symmetry, but also the frustration of it. It was like, I'm not feeling connected to this work anymore, and I can't sign a client for the life of me. And I'm, my funds are dwindling, and I can't pay my bills. It was like everything just came to a stop. And internally, I was feeling more shame than ever. Because I was in my childhood home in front of my parents, who have a very different perspective on life and have different expectations of me. And from their perspective, it just looked like I was doing nothing. It looked like I was doing a whole lot of nothing. Being sort of in bed all day at times, not all the time, but a lot of the time, feeling exhausted, being super emotional, crying a lot. I was just going through an absolute death of everything that I thought I was. And internally, I was doing so much work. I was crying every day and doing shadow work and journaling and meditating and sitting in stillness and asking for guidance and allowing my heart to heal and being triggered and confronted by my parents and noticing my inner child coming up and noticing my inner teenager coming up and seeing all the ancestral patterns. It was very, very, very painful and really, really debilitating. And I knew why I was there, and I knew what I was doing, and I knew that it was going to be temporary, that it couldn't last forever. But in my head, I really thought that I was going to be there for like 2 to 3 months, do this deep healing, address these things, and get the fuck out of there. And that was literally the whole point of it. Was spirit was like, you need to get to a point where you don't want to run from this place anymore, where you've come to peace with whatever lives here that disturbs you, so that you can actually sit with gratitude, clear eyes, and a loving heart for what a gift this family is. So it took a lot. It took a lot of conversations. It took some of me really standing up for myself in new ways than I had ever done. And I'm observing within myself right now that I'm like concerned about certain people seeing this video or listening to this podcast and what their thoughts are, because truthfully, I don't feel 100% safe with my extended family. But I think that's part of the whole point of this podcast, is that those of us that are really wanting to take accountability of who we are and healing from our past experiences, however that feels true and right to us, are oftentimes they feel very outcasted by their family, or very much like the black sheep. And I think I just need to be okay with that. And I think to a degree I'm relatively at peace with that. The way I'm sitting is not good for my spine at all. Oh my God. Okay, let's just relax the spine for a sec. Let's close this out because we don't need this to be a full hour long. It could be, but it doesn't need to be. I just put myself back in frame. Don't do that. Okay, so yeah, it's really important to me to speak honestly regardless of the discomfort. I know that there was an instance in the past where I spoke very candidly about what my childhood felt like, and that was not well received by extended family. But it wasn't brought specifically to me. It was brought to my mother's attention, which I thought was really strange. And so there is an element of me right now that's like, well, that happened last time, so who's to say it wouldn't happen again? But it doesn't really matter at this point. I feel a lot more rooted in who I am, so that's okay. But needless to say, I'm here now. Eclipse season is over. I feel relatively at peace with my family in a new way. I feel at peace with myself and my relationship to the version of myself that lives in the dimension of Toronto. And with that sort of acceptance and integration is coming a lot of things. It's me very organically coming back into union with my artistry. So I've already noticed that I've been dancing almost every day. And if I haven't shared, because I'm house sitting, I have solitude right now. I'm in this condo by myself, and I've had a lot of space and time over the past, I think it's only been 3 days, but it's felt, or no, 4 days. It's felt like a millennia. Like my concept of time is just gone. Time feels so different when I'm by myself. And it's just given me a lot of space to integrate and continue to alchemize in my physical form everything that I've healed and alchemized internally over the past 7 or so months, whatever it's been. So I've been dancing, I've been singing a lot, I've been cooking, and I've been smoking cannabis, which is really strange for me. And I'm still sitting with that and trying not to find judgment for it, and really just sort of observing, like, is that a good thing that I've felt this genuine call to this beautiful plant medicine? Or is this something that's not healthy for me, but it's something that I associate to being alone in Toronto with? And so there's a pattern that I'm defaulting to. But even as I say that out loud, that doesn't feel true. So I'm grateful that I communicated it out loud, because now I have the clarity that that's not the case. And I already know deep down, truly, I knew it wasn't the case, because in the past, when Santa Maria was no longer aligned for me, I couldn't smoke her without being very, very paranoid or very anxious and feeling very unwell and going like really deep into the underworld in a way that wasn't enjoyable or even really beneficial. And the last 2 times that I've smoked since I've been here have been really enjoyable. And case in point, have brought out a lot of creativity in me, because it actually was the, I don't want to say the catalyst, but Santa Maria was the sort of initiate. It was the motivation, the prompt to record this episode right now. So she brings out a lot of creativity in me. And I think it's something about her essence sparks my creativity, sparks my like feminine channel, but also because she's so grounding, really supports me in taking action on what's coming through, and my masculine gets to follow through on things that I would usually overthink and just keep as an idea or an unbirthed child in the astral. So I'm really grateful. I was trying to say glad and grateful at the same time, and it came out as grateful. I like it. It sounds like a good word. So this is a really interesting shade of me that you're getting to experience on my first episode, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. But hey, you're going to get probably all facets of me by the time I feel complete with this podcast series. So what the hell? Yeah, I feel like over time I'll go more in depth into my story and my relationship with the cosmos and Atlantis, and my other parallel lifetimes. I've recollected a lot of my other lifetimes, but I feel like that's a really good foundation of vulnerability to start with for you to understand who I am. And I really deeply intend and set the foundation and the container that whoever is watching these videos can receive my truth with the love and intention that I'm sharing it, and that the comment section is a reflection of that intention and integrity. And if there is something that's coming up for you that you really deeply disagree with that I'm sharing, or you're feeling skeptical, or in just radical disagreement with what I'm saying, I do not ever want to shun away an opportunity for mutual expansion. And so I would love for the comment section to be a space where everything can be held and witnessed, rooted in respect. So if you're really loving what I shared and you're excited and you want to put that down in the comment section below, please do so. If you're also feeling like something's coming up for you and you really want to share it, and it's not necessarily in agreement or it's in reaction to what I'm saying, you're welcome to place it as well. But please place it from a space where we can have a dialogue and get to mutually grow from each other, and not for it to be another place where we mindlessly share from a place of pain with an intent to hurt someone else. I think humans are capable of addressing and healing anything through conversation, and that a lot of times our ego just creates the illusion that we're separate, and we play into that because the mind overrides the heart. And I don't want to be a part of that. I don't. I want to continue to foster more and more spaces for community and connection. And so we'll start right here with that, with my comment section. So thank you so much for watching this episode or listening. Whatever you did, let me know if you watched or you listened, because I am not like a podcast girly in the sense of my neurospicy brain needs to be stimulated visually. Otherwise, I can't pay attention, or I just don't enjoy how I'm receiving the information. So that's why I created a visual podcast. But I would just love to know, out of curiosity down below, did you watch this because you also love to watch, or you just like wanted to see my face? Or did you hit play and let this just play out in the background and you got to listen? Yeah, I just selfishly want to know. But yeah, thank you so much for being here and receiving this however you did. Thank you for witnessing me. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for just simply your presence. It's something that I feel strongly when I record any sort of content, is I feel the timelessness. I feel the non-linear nature of time. And so even though I'm just sitting here in this room talking by myself, I can already feel the audience that's watching this. And so you are a part of the co-creation of this experience. And it wouldn't be what it is if you weren't here at some point in time and space. So thank you for adding your unique, beautiful quality to my experience of this viewership. And I'm really excited to embark on this journey and to create more of these videos and to give myself a space to share whatever the heck is on my mind, whatever is coming through my channel, and to eventually over time, do some shadow work in real time on here as well, because that feels like it's a huge part of my mission. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Let me know down below if there's any specific topics that you would like me to chat about, whether by myself or with future guests, like giving us themes or motifs to touch on. If you have any specific questions for me, and again, if there was any of those stories that sort of piqued your interest and you would like me to do a whole story time episode on, I could totally do that. So I'm sending you so much love, just emitting tired but happy, fulfilled, loving energies from my heart to yours. Just go out into the world and be the epic, loving ass human that you are. And don't forget, you can live your life on the fly. Goodbye. Oh, it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy, but it's so good. And there's a part of me that's like, what if we did... It's time to say bye from On the Fly. No, we can't do that. But we could. What else could we do? Here at On the Fly, we let the ego die. But we don't really. There's not really any such thing as an ego death, but there is. No, there's just too much. There's too much leeway here. That's all for now. We're good. See you next time.